welcome or welcome back to my channel. For those who don't know me, my name is Katharine, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about my November TBR or to be read list. I can't believe November is already upon us. But here we are. I have a huge stack of books here to talk about that I want to read in November. By no means am I going to read all of these books in November. These are just some of my options. I like to refer to my TBR or to be read list as a pile of possibilities as well, because truly it is a pile of possibilities of books that I could read in the month of November. So let's get into it. I should preface though that I've set a goal for myself of reading one classic and one nonfiction per month. So that's why I have so many options here, because if I'm not feeling like reading one classic over the other or one nonfiction over the other, I have a plethora to choose from. So let's just get into it. Starting off with the classics. I have here two Charles Dickens books that I could possibly get to in November. The first one here is Oliver Twist. The second one here is Great Expectations. Funny enough, I have connections to these both. I was in middle school. Was it middle school? I think it was middle school. Yeah, I think I was in the 7th grade when I actually participated in my middle school's musical theater program, and I played like a doctor in like our Oliver Twist musical. So I've always wanted to read Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens since then, because I've always wanted to see what the actual story is about rather than just like the musical theater adaptation of it. So that's a possibility. And with Great Expectations, I've always wanted to reread this. I read it, I think, back in like high school, but it was like kind of like a chore to me, like any book that I was required to read for an assignment during middle school or high school, or even elementary school for that matter. Any book that I had to read during school, I just saw it as a chore, and therefore I didn't enjoy it as much. I had this thing where it just went right in one ear and out the other, right over my head. So I really want to reread this because I feel like I'm leaning towards enjoying classics more now as a full-fledged adult. And I just want to reread like a lot of the books that I read in school to see if I would like actually enjoy them rather than, you know, just reading them for an assignment. So we'll see if I get to one or the other of these books, or maybe even both. So those are my classics that I have to choose from for the month of November. For the nonfiction options, I have quite a few here that I can choose from. Right here, the first one I have is How to Be Born Again by Billy Graham. Fun fact, my dad actually went to Billy Graham's crusade thing that he held across the country back in like the 70s. My dad went, I think it was the 70s or early 80s. I don't know when exactly my dad went, but he went during one of his like crusade things when he came to Boston actually. And that's where my dad got saved. I think he hosted it at like either Boston University or Boston College, like one of those big universities in Boston. And that's where my dad got saved. Like he walked up to the front during like the altar call and like did like the salvation prayer and thing, he did the salvation prayer at the front of the stadium. And I'm really grateful for Billy Graham for that reason, because I think that I would have been brought up a lot differently if my dad didn't get saved at one of Billy Graham's crusades. So I'm slowly but surely making my way through a lot of Billy Graham's works. I just read earlier on this year Holy Spirit by him and also Angels, and so this would be the third book that I'm reading by Billy Graham. I am actually going to the Carolinas in March, and I'm hoping to go to the Billy Graham library when I'm there. So hopefully reading all of Billy Graham's works, or at least some of them, like a handful of them, would prepare me to when I go to the Billy Graham Library in March. The next nonfiction that I have here is How to Read Your Bible by John MacArthur. Rest in peace. He just passed away earlier on this year, and it's really sad because I really look up to John MacArthur. I really admire his points of view in terms of faith, and he has actually written a lot of books like this, and also I have one of his study Bibles that I want to eventually dive into, but I wanted to specifically read this one because I feel like it's a good starting point in terms of where to begin in his writings. And this may not be finished in the month of November. I hope to just like read this maybe like one chapter per day right after I read my Bible or something, kind of as like a supplemental like Bible study reading. So we'll see if I finish this in November. I definitely want to start it in November. The next nonfiction that I have here is Gentle and Lowly by Dane Ortland. I know I had this on my October TBR or to be read list, but I did not get to it sadly in October, so I'm putting it on my November TBR or to be read list. And apparently this is a really well-beloved and renowned like Christian nonfiction. It basically, from what I gathered from the synopsis of this book, is that it explores like how Jesus is gentle and lowly and how he's very humble and meek, and how we as Christians should emulate that. So I can't wait to get into this book hopefully in November, but we'll see. The next nonfiction that I also had on my October TBR, but I'm rolling it over here to my November TBR or to be read list, is Calm My Anxious Heart by Linda Dillow. I did try to read this back in college, like way back when. This is like years ago at this point. Almost a decade ago, if you can believe it or not. But there was like this Bible study group that I was a part of, and like they were reading this, but I only got like a few chapters in because of the fact that like it was college, and like I had a very busy life during college. Like I was involved in a lot of things along with also just doing like classwork, and it was just a lot. Like, so I just didn't have the time, and I was just too busy to like continue on with the book and also like just attend the meetings that this Bible study was a part of. So I hope to like actually start and finish this book maybe in November. We'll see. And then the next book that I have here is Taming the Giants by Kathy Dickinson. Funny enough, just like the last book I just talked about, this was also for a Bible study group that I was a part of, not in college. This was like right after college, and my church was putting on this Bible study, and life just got really busy, and like I couldn't finish this, and I no longer could do the meetings. It just happens that way, like life gets in the way and you just don't have time to read. This was also like before like I was like a dedicated reader, if that makes sense. So now like I go out of my way to read, like no matter how busy life gets, but this was at a point in my life like where I just did not like really make time to read. So I'm hoping to get to this as well. Calm My Anxious Heart, the book that I just talked about, and this one, Taming the Giants, they both really tackle like the busyness of life as well as, you know, tackling anxiety and depression. So they both are similar in that way, and I'm hoping to get to both of those in the month of November because I, as of recently, have been dealing with a lot of anxiety, and I think getting a fresh perspective through like a Christian nonfiction would really be refreshing and help encourage me in this time in my life. This next book that I have here is The Three Ordinary Voices of God by Matthew Kelly. I honestly don't know what this is about. My dad got this for me when we went to like an Easter service this past year, and they were selling this book like at the Easter service. And from the back here it says, "We yearn for God's direction. We want to hear his voice. We know his will is the path of peace, joy, and happiness we hunger for. But how do we discover his will? And it also says here, God hasn't stopped speaking, we've stopped listening. So I'm assuming this is just like a book about like how to discern God's voice and also to know God's will in your life, because it can be confusing, and I'm hoping this can encourage me in that. And it is a very thin, short book. Let me see what the page count is. Oh, yeah, it's very short. Let's see here. It's 118 pages, so this could possibly be read in a day. So I'm excited to get to this. Hopefully, this last nonfiction option, I don't have the dust jacket for it, because I went through this really weird phase where like I did not like dust jackets, so I just like tore them off all of my books and threw them away. Kind of stupid in hindsight, because now I like, dust jackets on books. I just have to learn how to take care of them, because that was my biggest problem with dust jackets before, is like I didn't like how they got destroyed so easily, and like they could be torn if not tended to carefully. But I now know that like if I just take care of dust jackets and like I'm very gentle with them, they won't get as jacked up. But anyways, that's why you don't see like a dust jacket on here, and why there's not really like a front cover to this. But this is 11 Seconds by Travis Roy. And for those who don't know, Travis Roy is a well-known hockey player, like a college hockey player, may I add. And during one of his games, like he got shoved into like the wall of the rink and he became paralyzed. And he actually came to my middle school when I think I was like in 7th grade, if I'm not mistaken. And I bought one of his books, hence why I have this book physically in my hands right now. And it's actually signed by him. And because he's paralyzed, like he had to sign it with his mouth, like a pen actually had to be put in his mouth and he like would sign it that way, which is pretty interesting. And I really admire him for being such an encourager. Like he would go around and like speak at different like places, like either at companies or schools. Like he came to speak at my middle school, and that's why I have this book in my hands, and he signed my book, which is really cool. He has since died, and it's really put it on my heart to read his book. This isn't very long either. I look forward to getting to this. It's literally just about his life, I believe, and how he got into his accident and so forth, and what he's done after the accident. It's 236 pages, so not too long, and I hopefully can get to this in November. Okay, on to like the fiction books that I hope to get to in November. This first one is The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. I'm really looking forward to getting to this. All I really know about this book is that it takes place in Alaska during the 1970s. It's all I really know, and that's all I really want to know about it, because of the fact that I like going in blind to books where I'm trying to discover if they're a favorite author of mine. I just recently did that with Amy Harmon. I like to give authors at least 3 chances in order to prove to me that they're my favorite author. So I just read my 3rd and final book by Amy Harmon to prove that she's my favorite author. So now she's one of my favorite authors, because I rated one of her books 6 stars, which like kind of breaks the scale, the 5-star scale for me. And that is one of my favorite books of all time. And the other 2 books were 5-star reads. So she's become a favorite author of mine now, and I can't wait to read more of her books. But anyways, Kristen Hanna, I'm in that process with Kristen Hanna right now. I just read, what was it? The Nightingale by her, and you'll see that in my October reading wrap up next week, so make sure to be on a lookout for that. But anyways, I'm on that path with her right now, Kristen Hanna, to try to see if she's a favorite author of mine. I still have to read 2 more books by her to make it to like the 3 book mark in order to see if she's a favorite author. If I read 3 books by an author and they're all like 4, 4.5, 5 stars, then they'll be a favorite author of mine. And this will be my 2nd book by her. and I can't wait to get to it. It sounds really interesting. I love the cover. It's very beautiful. I also think that the premise of it is interesting, it being set in Alaska. I don't think I've read a book set in Alaska, so this should be an interesting book to dive into in November. Also, it being set in Alaska, I think, like, it almost getting colder and colder here in New England, I think it being set in Alaska would kind of get me in the mood for like this in-between season of like fall and winter. So yeah, the next book I have here, yet again, I don't have the dust jacket for this because I went through that weird stage of throwing out dust jackets. God knows why I did that, but whatever. It's Chasing Shadows by Lynn Austen, and this is a historical fiction, I believe taking place during World War II, and I don't know exactly where this takes place. I don't know if it's in Germany or France. Again, don't know too much about this book because of the pure fact that I'm trying to see if Lynn Austen is one of my favorite authors. I did read a Christmas book by her last year, and I didn't enjoy it as much as I had hoped. I'm thinking it's just because it was a Christmas book and I'm not a big Christmas book reader in general. So I'm hoping Chasing Shadows by her will do it for me. Hopefully this is like a 4 or 5 star. Otherwise, if this is anything below 3.5 stars and under, I think I'm just not going to continue with Lynn Austen books because the Christmas book that I read by her was disappointing, and if this is disappointing to me, I don't think I'm going to continue on with her books. I'm a big historical fiction reader. That's like probably my preferred genre, and I like specifically World War II historical fiction, so I'm hoping I like this, but we'll see. And the last and final book that I have on my November TBR, or to be read list, is The Lady's Mind by Francine Rivers. Thankfully, I did not take the dust jacket off of this. Essentially what this is about is it takes place in, I think, yes, the 1870s in California. And it's like a, I believe, let's see, yes, it's a mining town in the Sierra Nevadas. And this girl who is named Katharine, she's from Boston, and I'm also a Katharine from Boston, so that's really interesting. And essentially she moves out to California, and she inherits his newspaper office, and also I think he also owns one of the mines, if I'm not mistaken, and she meets a local saloon owner and hotel owner. He like owns a hotel and a saloon, if that makes sense. And I think there's a bit of a romance there. So this sounds exactly up my alley. It kind of sounds like her other book, Redeeming Love, which is one of my favorite books of all time. So I hope that this is one of my favorite books of all time too once I read it. I am so excited about this book. This is probably the book that I'm most looking forward to in November. But yes, those are all the books that I am hoping to get to in November, and I have a few options for classics, a few options for nonfiction, and a few options for just plain old fiction. So yeah, I'm excited about November. I have some good reading plans, hopefully, and hopefully they are as they are expected to be, if that makes sense. Like, I hope they're all good. That's what I'm trying to say, okay? Words aren't wording for me today. I don't know what it is. But anyways, do all the YouTube things that you know how to do, like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!